The Ghost of Kyiv is made up, the Ukraine military confirms. It was aired a few days back that the Ukrainian fighter pilot is known as the Ghost of Kyiv, a lone fighter in the early weeks of the Russian invasion of Ukraine's embattled capital city. The Ghost zealously guarded the sky over Kyiv, expertly maneuvering his 30-year-old twin-engine MiG-29. He shot down 40 Russian warplanes against the odds with antiquated weaponry before succumbing to enemy fire 3 weeks into the war. On social media, the Ghost of Kyiv was hailed as a military hero, an ace fighter pilot lauded for allegedly shooting down multiple Russian planes. The stories began just days into the war and spread for months, bolstered by official Ukrainian accounts. The Ghost of Kyiv is a nickname given to a fictitious MiG-29 Fulcrum flying ace who is credited with shooting down 6 Russian planes over Kyiv on February 24, 2022, during the Kyiv offensive. According to various reports, including the Ukrainian Security Service, the ace shot down 10 Russian jets as of February 27. The legend of the Ghost of Kyiv has been credited with boosting Ukrainian morale and providing a narrative for Ukraine's success. 2 months later, the Ukrainian Air Force admitted that he was a myth and a piece of propaganda and warned people not to ignore the fundamental rules of information hygiene and to check the sources of information before spreading it. After several news outlets last week identified the legendary enigmatic hero fighter pilot as a 29-year-old father recently killed in combat with the Russians, military officials admitted on Saturday that no such person existed. Ukraine's Air Force Command posted a message on Facebook saying the Kyiv Ghost is a superhero legend whose character was created by Ukrainians. Ukraine fighter pilots are vastly outnumbered by Russians and have become legendary thanks in part to the legend of an alleged flying ace known as the Ghost of Kyiv. The reputed hero was credited with shooting down as many as 40 Russian aircraft before being shot down on March 13 while battling an overwhelming number of enemy forces, according to the Times of London. According to previous reports, the ace's name is Major Stepan Terabalka, 29. The authorities confirmed that he was killed in action on March 13 and was posthumously awarded the Hero of Ukraine medal. According to the Times, his helmet and goggles, all that was seen of him when Ukrainian officials promoted his heroism, are now set to be auctioned in London. Major Stepan Terabalka is survived by his wife Olena and a son. National Press Radio interviewed the Ghost of Kyiv's parents shortly after his death. "We know he was flying on a mission," said Major Terabalka's father, "and he finished his mission, his task. Then he didn't come back. That is the only information we have." His parents, Natalia and Evan, stated that the deceased Ukrainian pilot's lifelong dream was to fly above the clouds. The Air Force now emphasizes that Terabalka is not the Ghost of Kyiv, and he did not shoot down 40 planes. Ragip Soylu, Turkey bureau chief for Middle East Eye, quoted the Ukrainian military and stated, "The Ghost of Kyiv is a superhero legend created by the Ukrainians. This is a group shot of the pilots of the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade defending the capital skyline, which appear unexpectedly. It's not difficult to prove that warplanes killed people over Ukraine. Daytime shootdowns are frequently visible from the ground, and they are just as frequently recorded and made public. After all, Ukraine has tens of millions of smartphone cameras with easy access to social media. It's not for nothing that open-source intelligence analysts, such as Oryx's bloggers, frequently find overlapping visual evidence, videos and photos, to confirm the outcome of any observed aerial engagement. It may take a few weeks, but evidence usually comes to light. Periodic assessments by foreign powers usually confirm the OSINT practitioners' rough counts. Through April, Oryx had destroyed 16 Ukrainian fighters and attack planes, losses that, when combined with non-catastrophic damage and wear and tear, could reduce Kyiv's 125-jet frontline fleet to roughly half as many flyable airframes. On April 19, an unnamed Pentagon official told reporters that a recent influx of spare parts, aided by U.S. officials, allowed the Ukrainian Air Force to repair 20 grounded fighters, effectively making Kyiv's combat-ready jet fleet larger than it had been just 2 weeks before. If unofficial tracking of Ukraine's aerial losses is accurate, there's no reason why unofficial tracking of Russia's aerial losses shouldn't be as well. It appears that the Russian Air Force has lost at least 24 fighters and attack planes over Ukraine. Of course, that is a bare minimum. However, it is almost certainly within 100% of the actual total. That is to say, there is no way a single Ukrainian pilot shot down 40 Russian planes, not when hundreds of Kyiv's pilots have likely flown combat missions since Russia's attack on February 23, many of which have undoubtedly resulted in kills. That is to say, the Ghost of Kyiv legend never passed the smell test. The Ukrainian Air Force's claims were also confirmed by Ilya Ponomarenko, a defense reporter for the Kyiv Independent. According to military officials, the moniker instead belongs to all of Ukraine's hero fighter pilots collectively. The Ghost of Kyiv is described as a collective image of pilots from the Air Force's 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade who defend the sky over the capital, rather than a single man's combat record. For weeks, Ukrainians had no name for the Ghost of Kyiv, but that didn't stop the story from going viral on social media. A Ukrainian model aircraft manufacturer used it as a marketing brand, and Ukrainian Irina Kostyrenko displayed a military badge inspired by the legend. Military experts told the BBC that a single pilot could not have shot down as many as 40 Russian planes. The command tweeted, "Aviation Brigade who are successfully defending Kyiv and the region." Previously, the Ukrainian government played a key role in creating and perpetuating the myth of a single brave and particularly on-target fighter pilot. He's known as the Kyiv Ghost, and rightly so, the government said of the rumored mysterious figure in February, adding that the pilot had already become a nightmare for invading Russian aircraft. However, many people question whether the ghost was real after a video purporting to show the fighter turned out to be from a video game. Nonetheless, many people were eager to commemorate the enigmatic alleged pilot. True or not, this is exactly the kind of inspiring story the resistance needs right now, a Twitter user said. Ukrainian military historian Mikhail Zhirahov described the Ghost of Kyiv story as morale-boosting propaganda. Speaking to the BBC from Chernihiv, he said that because the Russians dominated Ukrainian airspace earlier in the war, a Ukrainian pilot could only shoot down 2 or 3. It's critical to have this propaganda because our armed forces are smaller and many people believe we can't compete with them. In a time of war, we require this, he stated. This modern legend was inspired by the fact that Ukrainian pilots continue to deny Russia total control of the skies while flying inferior, older Russian-designed MiG-29s. Russia has had over 2 months to destroy Ukraine's air defenses with all of its military might and has failed. Just days into the war, Ukrainian authorities fueled the Ghost of Kyiv legend. The Ukrainian security service posted a picture of a fighter pilot on the Telegram messaging app with the caption "Angel of Kyiv" for downing 10 Russian planes. However, the angel was not named, and media reports later stated that the photo used was an old one. According to a Ukrainian military expert who requested anonymity, the Ghost of Kyiv story helped to raise morale at a time when people needed simple stories. The Moskva story has also boosted Ukraine's morale. According to the British Daily, President Volodymyr Zelensky will award the deceased pilot the Order of the Golden Star and the title of Hero of Ukraine on March 20th, 2022. First, Ukrainian border guards defied the Russian missile cruiser with a vulgar gesture, which was commemorated on a popular postage stamp. The ship, the pride of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, was then allegedly sunk by Ukraine with 2 Neptune missiles. Russia acknowledged that there was a fire on board and that the ship sank, but it made no mention of a missile attack. Other countries' national mythologies have also included heroic fighter pilots. The United Kingdom honors the valiant Royal Air Force pilots who outwitted the mighty Nazi Luftwaffe during the Battle of Britain in 1940. And Russia itself extols the sacrifices of its World War I soldiers. The Germans outgunned the 2 pilots. After running out of bullets, some deliberately crashed into enemy planes. Legends like the Ghost of Kyiv are unsurprising given the disparities in Russian and Ukrainian losses. There is plenty of room for embellishment. According to the Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff, Russia has lost 190 planes and 155 helicopters so far in the war. However, independent military analysts, Oryx, estimate that Russia lost 26 planes, 39 helicopters, and 48 drones. Russia and Ukraine are both very private about their losses. Counting is difficult because aircraft frequently crash into Russian-controlled territory, and some manage to land there. Experts agree that in the majority of cases, Russian aircraft were brought down by surface-to-air missiles, particularly man-portable air defense systems. According to Justin Crump of the security consultancy Sibylline, the Ghost of Kyiv legend is important because people need myths, heroes, and legends to provide cohesion and meaning in our social media age.